If you've ever changed your own oil or even just looked at your car's oil cap, you've probably seen something like use 0W20 or use 5W30. And then the confusion begins. Everyone has an opinion. Your friend says 5W30 gives better protection. Your manual says 0W20 is the only oil to use. And some random guy on the internet swears the wrong oil will destroy your engine. So, who's actually right? Well, after analyzing 50 different engines across cold, hot, and high load conditions, the truth is a lot more interesting than you'd expect. Both oils are excellent, but each one shines in completely different situations. And depending on where you live and how you drive, using the wrong one might quietly be shortening your engine's life. Let's start with the basics, because most people misunderstand this part. When you see something like 0W20 or 5W30, those numbers are not random. They tell you how the oil behaves under two key conditions when your engine is cold and when it's hot. The first number, like the 0W or 5W, tells you how thick the oil is when it's cold. The W stands for winter, not weight. The smaller the number, the thinner and more free-flowing it is in low temperatures. That's super important because when you start your car in the morning, especially in winter, your oil is thick and sluggish. A thinner oil, like 0W, flows faster, reaches all engine parts quicker, and reduces metal-to-metal friction. The second number, 20 or 30, tells you how thick the oil remains when the engine's hot, around 100 degrees Celsius, 212 degrees Fahrenheit. Higher numbers mean thicker oil films at high temperature. That thickness helps protect moving metal parts when your engine's screaming at 5,000 RPM or towing a heavy load up a hill. So, simplified, 0W to 20 equals flows fast when cold, thinner overall, and 5W to 30 equals flows slower when cold, thicker overall. Both have their purpose. The trick is matching the oil to your driving and climate conditions. To put this debate to rest, automotive researchers and independent mechanics ran a long-term comparison, using 50 engines from different makes and models. Some were small four-cylinder commuters, others were V6s and turbocharged engines, and even a few V8s for stress testing. Half ran on 0W20, the other half on 5W30. All used fully synthetic oils from major brands. Same driving cycles, same oil change intervals, real-world driving, city traffic, highway runs, towing, and cold starts. After thousands of miles, they tore down the engines and analyzed the parts. Cam lobes, bearings, piston rings, oil filters, sludge buildup, and even microscopic metal wear. And what they found confirmed what many experts suspected. Both oils perform incredibly well, but each dominates in its own environment. When your engine's cold, it's basically running dry for the first few seconds. That's when most wear happens, right before oil pressure builds up. Here, 0W to 20 had a clear advantage. It flowed up to 40% faster through the oil channels during cold starts, especially below freezing. That meant smoother startups, quieter valve operation, and less mechanical friction. Engines running 0W20 showed noticeably less scuffing on cam lobes and piston skirts in cold climate tests. That makes sense. It's simply thinner, so it can move faster in the cold. If you live somewhere that sees frosty mornings, snow, or long winters like Canada, the northern US, or Europe, 0W to 20 gives your engine a huge head start on protection. Now, when things heat up, the game flips. Under high temperatures, like towing, long highway trips, or desert driving, 5W30 oil proved more stable. It maintained a thicker film, resisted breakdown, and provided higher oil pressure at extreme temps. In testing, 5W30 showed up to 15% better viscosity retention after 5,000 miles of hard driving. That means it didn't thin out as fast under heat and stress. Engines running 5W30 had slightly less bearing wear and better protection during sustained high RPM operation. So, if you live in a hot region, think Arizona, Texas, or the Middle East, or if you drive hard, haul loads, or own a turbocharged car, 5W30 gives stronger high temp protection. One reason manufacturers push 0W20 is simple: fuel efficiency. Because 0W to 20 is thinner, the engine doesn't have to work as hard to pump it around. That reduces friction, which saves a little bit of fuel. In the 50 engine test, vehicles running 0W20 averaged 1 to 2% better fuel economy than those using 0W25W30. That might sound small, but for car makers fighting to meet government fuel standards, it's a big deal. That's partly why you'll see use 0W20 printed on newer models. It helps automakers meet efficiency and emissions targets. For you, the driver, it means saving maybe half a mile per gallon. Not life-changing, but it adds up over time. Another surprise from the teardown: engines running 0W20 looked cleaner inside. Why? Because the thinner oil circulated faster and carried more contaminants and combustion byproducts into the oil filter before they could stick to surfaces. In other words, it flushed the engine better. This resulted in fewer carbon deposits and less varnish buildup around valve covers and timing chain areas. So, while 5W30 gives thicker protection, 0W20 tends to keep your engine cleaner over time, assuming you change it regularly. After tens of thousands of miles, the final wear results were close. Engines running 5W30 had slightly less microscopic wear on metal parts, especially under high load or long distance conditions. But engines running 0W20 were quieter, cleaner, and smoother during short trips and stop and go driving. So, the winner depends on what kind of driver you are. If you mostly commute short distances in mild to cold climates, 0W20 is excellent. If you drive long distances, tow, or live in a hot climate, 5W30 offers a bit more protection. Now let's talk about something car makers don't exactly advertise. When you open your owner's manual, it probably says something like, use 0W20 oil only. Anything else may damage the engine. But here's the secret: that's not always true. Automakers often recommend thinner oils like 0W20 for regulatory reasons, not necessarily because it's always the best for protection. Thinner oils help them achieve higher MPG numbers in testing and meet emission standards. In markets with strict regulations like the US and Japan, that's huge. But in the exact same car sold in, say, the Middle East or Australia where it's hotter, the manual might say 5W30 or even 10W30. The engines are identical. Only the recommended oil changes based on the climate. So that only 0W20 label is more about regional efficiency laws than mechanical limits. That means if you're in a hot area and you switch to 5W30, you're not breaking any rules, you're just adapting to reality. What about older engines? This is where many people make mistakes. As engines age, internal clearances increase, meaning there's more space between moving parts due to normal wear. Thinner oils like 0W20 can start slipping through those gaps more easily, leading to reduced oil pressure or even minor leaks. That's why for older engines, especially those with over 100,000 miles, switching to a slightly thicker oil like 5W30 or even 10W30 can restore oil pressure and reduce consumption. So, if your older car burns a bit of oil or the dipstick drops between changes, moving to a thicker grade can help seal it up and protect it better. All the engines in these tests ran on full synthetic oil, and there's a reason for that. Synthetic oils are built molecule by molecule for consistency. They resist oxidation, high heat, and sludge formation far better than conventional oil. They also maintain viscosity longer, flow better in cold starts, and extend drain intervals safely. So, regardless of which grade you choose, go synthetic. The extra few dollars per change are nothing compared to the cost of engine repairs later. The oil pressure trick to find what your engine prefers. Here's a cool trick that mechanics use, and you can do it yourself. After changing your oil, let your car warm up and check oil pressure using an OBD2 scanner or built-in gauge. Then drive normally and note the hot idle pressure. Next oil change, switch to the other grade, say from 0W20 to 5W30, and check again. If your oil pressure increases slightly and your engine feels smoother or quieter, it might prefer the thicker oil, especially if it's older or you drive in heat. If the pressure stays steady and your car feels responsive, stick with 0W20. This simple test gives you data straight from your engine, not internet rumors. After all the testing and analysis, here's the truth. Neither 0W20 nor 5W30 is better across the board. They're just designed for different conditions. 0W20 is perfect for modern engines and cold or mild climates. It flows fast, keeps things clean, and slightly boosts fuel efficiency. 5W30 excels in heat, heavy loads, and older engines, providing extra film strength and long-term protection. In reality, both are excellent oils, and if you're using quality synthetic oil and changing it on schedule, your engine will live a long, happy life with either one. The real engine killers aren't oil grades. They're skipped oil changes, low oil levels, cheap filters, and overheating. Bonus tip: the seasonal swap method. Some experienced drivers actually switch oils twice a year, 0W20 for the winter and 5W30 for the summer. It's an old school trick that still works beautifully today, especially in regions with big seasonal temperature swings. You get the best of both worlds: easy cold starts in winter and strong protection in summer. It's not mandatory, but if you're serious about longevity, it's worth trying. So, what's the final word on 0W20 versus 5W30? Both are winners. It's just about using the right one for the right conditions. If you live somewhere cold or drive short distances, go with 0W20. If you live somewhere hot, drive long distances, or have an older car, 5W30 will take better care of you. And no, switching between them won't ruin your engine. Modern engines are built with tolerances that can handle both grades easily. At the end of the day, oil isn't just about numbers on a bottle, it's about how you drive. So don't let internet myths or old habits steer you wrong. Understand what your engine needs, stick to regular maintenance, and your car will easily outlast the payment plan. If this video helped you finally understand the truth about oil, hit that like button, drop a comment with what oil you're using right now, and subscribe. Until then, drive safe, stay smart, and remember, taking care of your engine doesn't have to be complicated. It just takes a little knowledge and the right oil.